Welcome to DBC. Today we are continuing and finishing the book Toxic Charity by Robert Lupton. We'll begin today with the final chapter, chapter 10, which is called Getting Started. Good way to end the book and transition into life, into putting these ideas in practice. A question or an observation from the beginning of the chapter, it says simply, think of how serving people is different than developing people, which has been the theme throughout the entire book. We want to enable others to do more things for themselves, and that development, in this sense, strengthens and enlarges their capacity. There's a really cool story at the end of the book in this chapter by a guy named John McKnight, who introduces himself at a charity event. And here's how he introduces himself. He says, "My name is John. I'm going bald. My eyes are getting worse. Let me tell you about some of the jobs that I've lost." And of course, the audience starts laughing because whenever we introduce ourselves to people, we always lead with our accomplishments, our degrees, our titles, the things we've done well. And his question, his point in introducing himself like this was that, why do we then introduce our urban neighborhoods in a mostly negative light? Oh, this is the murder capital of the state or the country or the hemisphere, and it's got the highest high school dropout rate, it's drug infested, it's a ton of teen pregnancies out of wedlock. Why do we take this different approach with ourselves versus the people that we serve or that we're trying to develop? And one legitimate answer is that fundraising, marketing misery works, that people feel compelled to give money to situations that look so dire like that. But this is, what the claim here is, this causes us to miss what is right. Are we combating problems or are we strengthening potential? So the question is here, well, what do we do now? Right? And then again, no surprise, the idea is to develop people. So how can we bring more dignity into our exchanges with others as opposed to just one-way giving, where there's this thing that we've talked about over and over, where people just feel like less than and it takes away their dignity. How can we increase our personal involvement as well? And so this is similar questions that have been going on throughout the book, and I'll let you read you the sort of the last paragraph that he finishes with. He says, in this book, we've tried to map a course from heart responses to mindful involvement with those in need. A progression from spontaneous acts of compassion instead to thoughtful paths of development, while underscoring the importance also of transforming environments, which we've talked about several times. And then the key last thing I want to leave you guys with is just that the poor, no matter how destitute, how they have an enormous untapped capacity. The goal here is to find it, be inspired by it, and to build upon it. And that's how he ends the book. Here's what I would say about this book if I had to wrap it up. I have this theory about a lot of nonfiction books, this being one of them. And it's that this book is 191 pages. And the idea here, the book is $16, $15.99. It's very hard to sell an index card for $16. That's, I think, what I would say to this book. And that's simple, that there are 2 or 3 really good ideas in this book, and I think that they could be fit on an index card, but that's not really a marketable, successful business plan for having a book. So I would say this, that he had 90% of his message in the first chapter, in the first half of the first chapter, really. And that's that we shouldn't be doing for others what they can do for themselves. It robs them of their dignity, and there's this hierarchy that we're just talking about. It keeps coming up. This is a legitimate idea and a legitimate criticism of charitable work. And I like that he comes from an angle of not shitting on charity, and be like, hey, this is bad, and here's what we should be doing, as opposed to like, oh, this is bad, and let's shut these places all down and not do any help at all. So this idea of having a sort of a parity level and finding what he calls indigenous leadership in the communities that we're looking to develop or to serve, that's there. So it's a change of mindset and action book, which is great. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. I think that the book could be summarized on maybe the front and back of an index card, and maybe there's something to the stories. However, yeah, that's what I would say. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.